Hello, I'm Bob Smilowitz. I'm with Weidlinger Associates in New York City, and I'm actually an adjunct professor at Cooper Union in New York City as well. And my co-chair is Dr. Craig Gibbons with Arup. The title of our working group is Progressive Collapse. Progressive collapse can be said to be the insensitivity to local failure in response to either extreme events or unanticipated events. Craig and I sort of divided the globe. I addressed the US activities, he looked at the rest of the world, and I'd just like to give you an update of the work, the interest that has been taking place in the recent time that we're going to advance. First of all, the ASCE and NIST developed or prepared a document, Best Practices for Reducing the Potential for Progressive Collapse in Buildings, and a series of workshops were given. One was given very recently in Chicago to discuss the subject matter. The Structural Engineer Institute, the SEI, developed or initiated a committee on progressive collapse standards and guidance. There is just this month a special issue mitigating the potential for progressive collapse of progressive disproportional structural collapse, the ASCE Journal of Performance and Constructed Facilities. And the U.S. governance, the guidelines from the GSA and Department of Defense will be unified. Public hearings were recently initiated by the ICC to discuss disproportionate collapse, and the New York City Building Code is addressing this subject. Just to go through these issues very quickly, the NIST ASCE document is an outgrowth of the investigations following the collapse of the World Trade Centers, and it advances a risk-based approach, providing design approaches and practical design issues. And it's now available on the NIST website. The pre-standard, or the ASCE committee, is to develop a pre-standard, and this is going to be a consensus document consisting of academics, design professionals, constructors, materials community, and it's supposed to address the lack of clear, detailed guidance in U.S. codes. And it's going to focus on risk determination, the engineering approaches for both robustness and collapse resistance. Just this month, the article or the journal, the special issue of the Journal of Performance of Constructed Facilities published 12 articles from engineers around the world, and it's a unique collection of documents that some are in conflict with one another, some are synergetic, but they're all informative and stimulating. And for the engineers in the audience, this is an excellent opportunity to start a forum, a discussion on the subject. There's a lot of difference of opinion on the different approaches, and this is a good sounding board to get that conversation started. Both the GSA and the Department of Defense developed guidelines for the protection of buildings to resist progressive collapse, and now there's an attempt to unify them to have a consistent approach within the U.S. government, and this will be a very productive activity. The International Code Committee recently met in Orlando, Florida, and decided not to adopt the recommended provisions from the Ad Hoc Committee on Terrorism-Resistant Buildings. They have shelved it temporarily, or for the time being, until further information is available. But the New York City Department of Buildings is moving ahead. The Structural Integrity Subcommittee has made recommendations. These are under review. They're actually doing a cost study to see what the impact of these provisions will be. On the international front, there is quite a bit of activity as well in Japan, Italy, the United Kingdom, China, Hong Kong, Germany, and Australia. And the special interest research is being performed in the UK on connections and the Structural Safety Committee. There was just recently a publication, the Japanese Guidelines for Collapse Control design. And Dr. Gibbons provided me some information of the international interest, the importance of ductility, the simplification of the dynamic analyses methods, a review of the time approach just to demonstrate its effectiveness and to resolve connection problems and ductility issues. And the UK too is looking to develop a risk-based approach and to develop or define commercially acceptable risk mitigation measures. And in addition, approaches for, to determine the appropriate loads for assessing the residual stability of damaged structures. There are quite a few issues out there. There's not nearly enough research being done on the subject matters, and since we won't be able to fund the research or to initiate the research on our own necessarily, we're going to look internationally to see what's out there, what research has been developed up until now, and resolve a lot of the outstanding issues, at least to collect these reports and formulate a coherent set of guidance. And once again, there's always a study or the conflict between explicit and implicit methods, one column, two columns, external, interior, or corner columns. These are all issues that we will address and are part of our interests. As far as next steps, we're going to release the committee members, the list of committee members, and I put out an offer. If anybody in the audience is interested in joining, we're very interested in expanding the committee. You can contact Craig Gibbons, Jerry Kerry, or myself. And we're looking to convene a meeting of the committee members within the next 4 months. So there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of activity, and hopefully we'll be productive shortly.